All right, so here we are looking at section 5.9, and this happens to be the last section for unit 5. And the topic here is composite transformations. So what we're going to be studying here in this section is two transformations, right? So you will perform one, then you will perform a second transformation and put them together into one movement. Okay, a couple of things before we actually get started on that, though, is this statement: two reflections over parallel lines produces a translation. So think about it like this. Let's say we have a triangle. We do a reflection, right? And then I have another line that's parallel to the first one where I'm doing another reflection. All right, so I flip this over the first parallel line, then I flip it again over the second parallel line. Well, if you ignore the middle triangle, what happened from here to here? It just slid from here to here, so that's really just a translation. Okay, so it'll flip it, and then the parallel line will flip it back, and it's really altogether just a slide. Okay, here's the next statement. Two reflections over intersecting lines produces a rotation. And so let's say I have two intersecting lines, and I rotate, first of all, or excuse me, I reflect over the first one. The first intersecting line flips it from here to here. Then I have the other intersecting line, and I flip the triangle from here to here. Well, when I take both of them together and once again ignore the middle triangle, so what's happened? This triangle has rotated from here around to here, and the point of intersection is the center of rotation. All right. So again, if you have two reflections over intersecting lines, it produces a rotation. So flip it here, then flip it here. Now, here's the other thing. Whatever this angle is right here, that the angle that's formed by the intersecting lines here, whatever that angle is, you do it times 2, and that's the angle of rotation. So if this angle is 40 degrees, then the rotation from here to here would be 80 degrees. All right, so just a couple of facts to make sure that we understand about composite transformation. Because here I'm doing two reflections to produce a translation. Here I'm doing two reflections to produce a rotation. All right? And so let's go ahead and do a few more composite transformations now. So here's what we're dealing with. ABC is reflected with the x-axis and translated 6 units right. So I have two movements here. Reflecting with the x-axis first, then translating 6 units to the right. So we want to find A double prime, B double prime, and C double prime. All right, so let's address this. How come there's 2 prime marks this time? Well, after the first movement would be the prime point, and after the second movement, that's the double prime point. And if there was a third movement, there would be a triple prime, and so on. All right, so if you do 2 movements, you have double prime points. All right, so for A, let's see how it looks. So the first thing that's happening to A is it's being reflected with the x-axis. So let's get the first movement. So there's 1, 2. So we'll go 1, 2. And then there is the A prime. And we're going to eventually get all 3 points, so why don't we just go ahead and do the first reflection, and then we'll do the second movement. Okay, so here's C. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. C prime. And B. 1, 2, 1, 2. B prime. Okay, so here's what the triangle looks like after the first movement, after the reflection. So there's the triangle after the first movement. Okay. Now, what's the second movement? Translated 6 to the right. So now I need to take all of these points and move them 6 to the right. So here's A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so that's now A double prime, right? It's the second movement. What are the coordinates? 1, 2, 1, 2. So that would be 2, negative 2. All right. The next movement now for B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They're all moving 6. That's B double prime. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down 2. So 5, negative 2. And now for C double prime, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'll drop here. C double prime. Coordinates are 2, negative 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, negative 4. And we can draw in now the new triangle. Okay, so once again, composite transformations, 2 movements now happening instead of just 1. All right? Okay, what about the next set of composite transformation? Let's see what we're doing next here. Okay, the next one says that triangle ABC is reflected with the y-axis and then rotated 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. And then, of course, we want to find the A prime, the B prime, and the C prime, or excuse me, the double prime. A double prime, B double prime, C double prime. That's what we want to find here. All right? And so, again, my first movement is going to be a reflection with the y-axis. Reflection with the y-axis. So let's do that first. So here's A, reflect with the y-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's A prime. All right, so for my B, then we can go 1 and 1. That's B prime. And for C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. C prime. Can draw in the new triangle. All right, so from here, the second movement is a 90 degrees clockwise rotation about the origin. So 90 degrees clockwise about the origin, so it's 0, 0 right here in the center. And then so we're going to be 90 degrees clockwise, right? So that means a quarter turn to the right from the top. Okay, so it's going to end up here. This is where the new triangle is going to be. Remember, the whole purpose of turning your paper, right, is to see where the new point is going to drop. All right, so I'm looking for A double prime, so here's A prime. So I'm going to do 90 degrees, turn my paper 90 degrees, clockwise rotation, 90 degree clockwise rotation. And we're looking for A double prime. So here's where A is going to drop. Well, where is it with respect to the center? It's over to the right by 2. And down by 1, 2, 3, 4. Right 2, down 4. Right 2, down 4. So when I go back to normal, where am I going to go? Right 2, down 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, and then so that point is going to be my A double prime. We can actually go through and get the coordinate now. It's going to be 2, and then negative 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 2, comma, negative 4. That is going to be the correct coordinate for A double prime. All right? So we've got 2 more now that we need to look at in the same way. And so for B, once again, it's 90 degrees counterclockwise, which would be here. So where is B prime now with respect to it? 1, 2, and down 1. 2 right, down 1. So when I go back to normal, I'm going to go 2 right, down 1. Remember, the whole purpose of turning your paper is to see where the new point is going to drop. So there's B double prime, and it does have coordinates of 2, negative 1. 2, comma, negative 1 is correct. And now we're going to be looking for C double prime. C double prime. So again, go ahead and make the movement. 90 degrees clockwise. Now let's see where C has dropped. It's over 1, 2, 3, 4, and down 1, 2, 3, 4. Over 4, down 4. So when I go back to normal, over 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1, 2, 3, 4. And we've got our C double prime. And I know those coordinates are 4, negative 4. And we can go ahead now and write in the new triangle, and then there it is. So we have now done a composite transformation, reflection over the y-axis, rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise around the origin. All right? So once again, just to recap, composite transformations, doing 2 or in some cases possibly more movements. If we had another movement, a third movement to this triangle, then the resulting points would be triple prime points. All right? Okay, so that's it for this lesson.